No, I like the backdrop.
I'm at the
Oh,
Durham.
nice. There you go. We're live. This is another AI with Alec fireside chat. We got Brandon Chaney, who's building something so interesting that we spent 90 minutes earlier this week, talking about it. And I was like, dude, we got to get on here and you got to help people understand what you're building, how you're building it, as well as a little bit of love for Raleigh Durham Startup Week next week that we're all going to be a part of, and so on and so forth. But without further delay, Brandon, I would love for you to go any direction you want to go, but what in the world is Moments? How are you using AI for real? And what's so exciting about bootstrapping a business in this killer world that we're now all in, where we can all do a lot more than we could before?
Yeah, well, thanks. Yeah, like you said, 90 minutes, and here we are talking again in the same week. So obviously, I didn't mess it up the first time.
Same,
So I'm
same T-shirt
glad
too.
to
I
same
appreciate
T-shirt. I know.
that.
We that's right. That's right. Make it simple that way. So yeah, Moments in the simplest terms, Moments is a AI powered note taker for therapists. Therapists have a requirement for documentation, sometimes for their own personal record keeping, but often for insurance filings, for their health records, for subpoenas and legal issues like that. So we use AI in a HIPAA compliant app that basically captures their session and automatically converts it into their kind of structured documentation for them.
I'm going to jump all over that because here's the thing, and I'm sure folks that are going to watch this or are watching this as obviously as we're doing this. I love call recording software because it takes so much stress off my mind because I have a Swiss cheese memory. I love the fact that robots have photographic memories and I can query it and I can do all sorts of exciting things over time. I think it's amazing. So just double click a little bit for non-technical folks and do a little parallel here to like call recording software, like, hey, Gong or Otter or whatever, and then translate that a little into the pain that you're addressing and what this enables therapists to do that they couldn't do before, because this is a painkiller for real.
Yeah, let me okay. So let me actually give you a little bit of the origin story of how
Do
Moments
it.
came about, because I think that'll give us some framework about how we ended up in the therapist office. Our CEO, our founder Greg, my partner, um, he about 8 years ago started journaling. He would journal. He's this crazy avid journaler. Someone might call OCD. Every day for 8 years, he's journaling, and then he's going back every day to that same day from the prior years, rereading it. And seeing if there's any patterns that he could pick out, and that was just very therapeutic. You could see if he's having a bad day today. Well, you know what? Bad days have happened in the past, but also good days have happened in the past. Did that for many years, and in 2022, he was spinning down a startup that he's working on, and it was kind of his first professional failure. He went into therapy. He was talking about that. He was really frustrated with kind of the way that you would kind of engage with therapy. You'd come in, you have the cold start. What are we going to talk about today? Everything's kind of recency bias because I just had a really bad day, so that's what we're going to talk about for the next 45 minutes, and then the last 5 minutes is really where the insight, and then time's up. At the same time, ChatGPT came out, and so he was interestingly putting his journals into ChatGPT, saying, "Give me a 150 word summary that tells me kind of what are three things that have been stressing me this week, or things that I'm grateful for," and he would use that to kind of prime the therapy session, which 1000x the results. Right now, as gracious as Google and OpenAI are with secrets, he was a little bit reticent to go ahead and put his deep and dark secrets into a Google Doc or into OpenAI, and that's really where he kind of came up with the concept of a journaling app, and that's really where Moments started, was on the journaling side, with really the focus being on anonymity. So ultimately, using the language models that are available and voice, he was able to voice capture his journals and have the language model summarize it. He would use that to go into his therapy sessions. Fast forward, what we realize is on the other side of that couch, there's a therapist who's also trying to manage multiple clients' information, right? Multiple relationships with their clients over time, and also having this requirement to do this documentation. unlike, when we go to the gym or we're supposed to go to the gym or we're supposed to meditate or we're supposed to journal, life happens. We get interrupted. Maybe we don't go to the gym that day. Maybe we don't meditate that day. Maybe we don't journal that day. The same things happen to therapists, but it's not an option to not do the documentation. So that's got to come from somewhere. That time has to come from somewhere. And it's really three places. It's going to come from, they're doing it in their own hours after work or on the weekends, which ultimately leads to therapist burnout. You're not getting paid for that time. You're just doing it in your overtime. It's going to happen in session, right? I'd love to be present with you, but I have to maintain my documentation. So I'm going to be looking over here and writing things down and thinking, listening to you, but also thinking about how do I restructure this in the way that the health record's going to need or the insurance is going to need. Whether you mean to or not, it's just happening. You're splitting your mind share. And lastly, they're just throttling their client load. I can't take on any more clients. And we know there's actually a huge demand, but a limited supply of therapists in the market right now. So this is like a problem. And so what we kind of realize is the same technology of using voice and to capture a journal for a client has some of the same benefit for the therapist on the other side. Maybe you're just asking different questions of what the voice recording is. And that was kind of the birth of Moments. And it's been, and I think the key to that was starting off with that anonymity, put us in a place, people, you talk about sales call recording software. I think people are super weird about even listening to their own sales calls, feeling self-conscious about it. Think about
not
the
me,
intimacy
not
of
me. I'm 100% all in. I love it.
100%.
Watching game tape, baby.
100%. And it's, how effective it is. How
100%.
effective it is. Think about 1000xing that with the intimacy of a therapy session, and sharing that is not a monologue, but is a dialogue between your therapist, it's privacy, and the things you're struggling with personally. And so, that anonymity became a huge part of why it was able to be accepted by therapists. They were concerned about their client privacy, rightfully so. They have a problem to solve in their business, but they're not willing to jeopardize their client relationship and privacy, because that is the ultimate trust. This is why they got into the industry in the first place, was to help people. And so that really gave us this, coming from that anonymity side, it really gave us this different perspective on how we could further relationships between therapists and their clients just by removing some of the administrative overhead.
Yeah, so 1,000%. And one of the things, and everybody that ever has consumed anything I've ever put out there about AI, and I put a lot out, is humans plus machines, not humans versus machines. This is,
That's right.
I think, the epitome of that, which I think is so great, because if you can enable therapists to frankly do a better job, and enable those that work with therapists to have a better experience, I mean, talk about impact. So that's phenomenal. Let's switch gears a little bit, just looking at the Startup Week thing. Let's switch gears a little bit. I want people to hear you talk about bootstrapping, right? And your thoughts on that, and how you're doing it, and a little bit of why you're doing it. And, I think that topic is so interesting. So I'm going to be quiet, let you get after it. Let's talk about the bootstrapping side of things and the equation.
Yeah. So I think when you think of the early stage, there's kind of multiple stages of business, right? So like you kind of have that product market fit, just making sure that you have something that's usable and that's valuable in the market. And then you have this kind of go-to-market fit, right? And, this is, can I reliably invest, almost like a speedometer, can I reliably invest in this business and get some result on the outside? I think in many cases, oftentimes there's financing happening on the front end, on the product market fit side, before you understand whether or not there's a business there. And in that time, like, look, if you're passionate about a problem, it exists. You think there's a viable market out there to buy your thing. You've done your research. You think there's something out there to solve, and you have an opinion on how to solve it. Let's be realistic. Your solution up front is a hypothesis on how you may go about solving it. It's easy to fall in love with our hypotheses and know that, like, we must have designed the perfect thing.
It's going to be amazing. Everyone's going to love it.
It's almost never that way, right? And it's only because you don't have the nuance of the problem. You understand the function of the problem, but you don't understand the nuance. We understood how to capture, we understood very quickly how to use the technology to capture a node and put a prompt against it and do all of the things that make it HIPAA compliant. What we didn't necessarily know is how to make it so that a therapist would actually want to use it, and how we describe it in a way that a therapist want to use it. And so, as we're looking through product market fit, really focusing on less around like revenue production. I mean, that's important, but revenue is an outcome of the identified value from your customer. And I use it, I see it, I'll pay for it, and I understand it. When we're tweaking those knobs, that's like, given the technology that we have today and the ability to kind of start things, it's not that it doesn't cost money, but before you go giving out larger chunks of your business in equity, or really doubling down on the investment, which tends to be around go to market, make sure that you have a thing. Make sure that you understand kind of what, if they gave you the money, what would you do with it?
Yeah.
Right. And so a lot of the focus we've had was early on was just like make it work. Like just don't tip over. There's a lot of technological back end. Make it simple. You can't over complexify it. It needs to be adopted. But then starting to do some lightweight experiments about like, how would we go to market? Where are the channels? There's certain channels that you need to seed your business, like whether it's to get credibility or to deepen your understanding of a market. And there's certain channels you need to understand, do these things scale? And so we've done experiments on both, working with therapists around doing continuing education on the seeding that gives us institutional credibility, helps us understand the problem a little bit more. And then focusing on things like paid media. We don't dump a huge amount of wood behind the arrow there, but like, can I reliably reach therapists? If I do, can I reliably get them engaged enough to, I don't know, give me their information when they install the app and actually register an account? And ultimately, do they create notes or do they not create notes? What nudges do I have to actually prompt them to attach to the product? And once we kind of unlock those things, ultimately we understand what we can afford to spend to go acquire a customer, and ultimately we can expect to get out of them. And that's a great story to raise against.
1,000%. And I think it in some respects it de-risks the equation for multiple sides, and therefore that's exciting because you increase velocity. So last question, we got like 90 seconds or so. What is this Julius AI that you told me about? I know because I've now looked into it thanks to you. Can you tell us a little bit about what Julius AI is? Because my mind was kind of blown.
Yeah.
And I want people to hear about it from you who obviously are using it.
Yeah, so Julius AI is one of the many tools that are out there. That obviously these tools that are built on top of these models here that are super powerful. Julius is a data, basically an AI data scientist that I can use my own pidgin English to explain to it what I want from it, and it'll give me back kind of a deep data analysis. And the key there is that, this is typically back to when we talk about what it takes to start a business and kind of measure these things. Back in the day, like it was so cumbersome to run cohort analysis and all the deep analysis. Like it was kind of reserved for the established companies, right? With these kind of tools, within 20 minutes a day, I'm kind of doing the deep analysis around product attachment, around go-to-market attachment, around kind of paid media, efficacy. I'm able to do that 20 minutes before I walk the dog in the morning, and it basically informs my entire day. And this is like crazy because like when you screw up the request, it doesn't roll its eyes. When you ask it, I think I messed that up. Can you do it a different way? And then, ruthless about giving you the results. Again, it just helps facilitate a smarter kind of data-informed strategy to going towards product market fit.
I love it, and we'll wrap it up here. But I think that what you're doing is awesome. I'm stoked that we had this conversation. I hope there are many therapists in my orbit, in my followers here, including sports therapists. I know you're out there with all your professional ball players and collegiate athletes, etc. That you might want to check this out. Check out Brandon Chaney. You know where to find him in the Triangle. Brandon, thank you. We'll see you next week at RDSW. Big shout out to Brandon Chaney, Ali Braidman, Paul Jagowski, and all the crew in the Triangle. And so one last person to shout out is Igor, the one name in AI. If you don't know who he is, you're going to find out next week. Thanks for participating, Brandon. We'll see you soon.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks.